Republican State Representative and former Uvalde Mayor Don McLaughlin, thank you so much and welcome to Ion Politics.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning.
So let's talk about the Uvalde Strong Act, which passed in the House and the Senate unanimously. You authored the bill. So why is this so important to you and to the state overall?
Well, as you said, I was the mayor of Uvalde that terrible day, and of course, my heart still breaks for the families. But I went to the Robb site, the Robb school, within 10 minutes of this going down, and what I saw was pure chaos that day. No coordination. Nobody took a command position. It was just chaos. And after that, we had meetings with law enforcement, and we had some of the law enforcement agencies didn't come to the meetings. And so I said, "This is wrong. We need to change this." And one of the things I talked to the families about, they wanted some form of accountability and training with officers. And although a lot of them would like to see more accountability, HB 33 does that now. If they don't do this training, they don't have these meetings together, and God forbid something like this ever happens again, but there will be a recourse because they're not following the law.
And so let's go through what this bill does require. Talk to me about the main points of this bill and what law enforcement agencies and school districts will have to do.
Well, primarily the sheriff will be the head of the head law enforcement agency in this. He will be required to have a meeting 3 times a year with all the entities, being the sheriff's department, DPS, school police department, city police departments, constables. Uh, they'll have meetings. They're already required by law to have 2 of those. The third one will be a tabletop where they all get together and they will do exercises and get to know one another so that they can communicate and uh, and work together. So if this ever happens again, we don't get to a situation where there's mass confusion, they don't know each other, or they don't know what to do.
And some of the other provisions that I was reading about require security reviews at all of these school facilities that are either being built or being renovated. Is that right?
That is right. That's one of the things. I mean, you also have a system now in the law where they have to do mapping, digital mapping of their schools. That's the law enforcement have that. When they add on, there has to be a security review by law enforcement and the school district together so that they can make sure that everybody's on the same page. They know what additions were done. If anything's changed, the building structure's changed or anything, they're aware of that.
And then another thing is the requirement of the standardizing of active shooter response policies for all police departments. Is that in a specific county or statewide?
Statewide. Right now, if T-Close has your certificate now if you're a law enforcement officer, it's mandatory. Everybody has to take alert training. It's not an option anymore. It's required. They did that last year. We just went a little stronger on it this year, and to make sure that everybody has that training now.
And then there's also continuing education, right?
There's
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
As far as continuing education for just communication issues where these entities, whether it be the school district, law enforcement, have to, during these horrible situations, communicate with the public about what's going on.
Yes, and I mean, and that's another failure. I mean, this at the Robb tragedy. I mean, in 4 days, the story changed 5 times in Uvalde in the first 4 days, which was ludicrous. So what this does, it'll also get their public information officer, whether it be the sheriff's department or one of his officers, or the police department, if they want to use a joint one or whatever, but they'll have some training so that when they're talking to the community, we won't have those deals like that where you're getting misinformation, uh, uh, like I said, that story changed 5 times in 4 days. It was very frustrating, very frustrating.
And it seems to me, though, that after what happened, Governor Abbott had instituted some of these policies. Is this just codifying? Is this putting into law some of the requirements that the governor had made, or is this beyond that?
This builds on what the governor and the previous legislature done, and instill where it said they may, now it says they shall. So all we did was just made it where they don't really have an option now. They have to have these meetings, they have to work together, and they have to have this training. The governor had already done that in HB3 from the year before or the session before, but this just strengthens on that. It builds
Did,
on top of that.
did you get any resistance?
We did at first. Senator Flores worked really hard with me. We didn't get any from the legislature at all. Law enforcement, we got some pushback at first, but we were able to sit down with all of them at the table till we all could agree and got along. And then, we took originally we had this being funded, but now it's under the governor's grant where he had the governor's purview with his grant, law enforcement grant, and that where we know the funds will be there for these grants.
I was just going to ask who's paying for this. So this comes out of the governor's budget as
It,
far as grants?
it comes out of his law enforcement grant or his law enforcement budget that he has his office controls.
And what were some of the concerns expressed by law enforcement initially?
Initially, but we were going too big with and I have to agree they were right. When you take a city the size of Dallas or Houston, they might have 4,000 officers in there to get them all together at one time, and they might have 50 school districts to get them together at all at one time. So we understood that, and we were able to work that out where those superintendents and police chiefs will get with the sheriff in those largest communities at a time that works with the sheriff, but they will continue on those meetings. That was probably the biggest pushback we got, I think. That
And
they thought we were going to make them go out and hire another professional public relations officer when they already have some in their system.
and so that was worked out then, so that could be coordinated in the large counties, like you said, Dallas, Tarrant County, Collin County, and Denton County up here in the North Texas region.
Yes, sir. And they all agreed. Like I said, when we all got through and we sat down, everybody. I think we ended up having the seven law enforcement entities all signed on and were on board 100% with the bill.
And I did want to ask you about this because I saw once the Senate passed this legislation unanimously, the Democratic lawmakers had, while they voted for it, they had expressed concern. They said that, the state still needs to address the gun laws. What do you say to that?
You know, like I said before, my heart breaks for those families in Uvalde for that day. No parent should ever have to bury their child. But the gun law is not going to change the situation until we look at the overall picture, until we look at mental health, until we look at single parents or no parents in the child's life and grandparents having to raise them. And when we play these video games, I never paid that attention to the video games until after that Rob deal. But I would look and see what my grandson was playing. When you're playing a game all day long that just teaches you to shoot people and kill people, and it gives you points and rewards you, we're desensitizing these children to what life is. And if you just change the age, it's not going to work. But if we start addressing the social problems there, then we can have that conversation. But if you can change the age to 80, in my opinion. And if a bad person wants to do something, he's going to get a gun. We had two shootings in Uvalde after the Robb school shooting. Were gang related. That one of them was a running gun battle right through town, and then that was in the summer. And then in October, they got into the park and got into a fight, and two people were shot. That gun was bought off the streets in San Antonio, wasn't bought legally. So, I mean, bad people are going to figure a way to get a gun. We need to, we need to start addressing the root issues, in my opinion, which is the broken families, the mental health, and these and Hollywood games. I mean, Hollywood movies and these games that desensitize everybody to human life. I mean, it's sad.
And let me just ask you, there is part of the school funding bill that is now over in the House after being passed by the Senate includes $430 million more for school safety. What's your thought about that? Is that enough?
Well, no, probably not enough in all honesty, but I mean, we're just going to have to, I mean, we're going to have to work harder to get more funding there. But I think, I think it's a start in the right direction. We're going to have to we're going to require and give these school districts and that more and more mandates of what they have to do. If we're going to request officers there, then we'll have to do something. Me personally, I'd like to see us do away with the school police departments and do a Department of Public School Safety where all the officers are trained the same. They're all issued the same equipment, and then they're dispatched to the school districts just like DPS is to our counties now. But it's a start.
Is that something you're going to work on for the next session?
I will. I'm going to look at that real hard.
And I did want to ask you one other thing, and I appreciate your time, Representative, and that is I saw the emotional moment that you and other lawmakers had the other day on the House floor, reading aloud the names on the anniversary of that just horrible day in Uvalde. What was going through your mind as you were, discussing this and reading the names and having all these lawmakers gather around you?
Well, I mean, my heart broke that day. I mean, you know, 20 minutes before, I mean, 20 minutes after when I read that, if it had been 20 minutes later, it would have been the time we found out those children had been killed, had been brutally murdered, and those teachers. And so, uh, we started the morning off with a memorial to wounded veterans, uh, playing taps, playing the bagpipes. Then you had time to reflect. And when I'm sitting there and I'm reading the names and I'm looking at the ages, it just broke my heart all over again.
Well, State Representative and former Uvalde Mayor Don McLaughlin, thank you so much. We do appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You have a good day. God bless you.
You as well.